Hey everybody, how's it going? It's 11:15 on a Saturday, and if I speak in hushed tones, that's because my sweetie went to sleep. Um, I thought this would be really interesting as a subject. Jim Starlin, as you know, he's not only the mastermind that had reinvigorated Warlock and Captain Marvel, and did two of the greatest annuals ever that became Avengers Annual 7, Marvel 2 and 1 2. And he just been prolific. Dreadstar in the 80s was great. And but a lot of times he liked to poke around and try something different. And in a previous video, I showed the Ghost Rider fill-in and some of the other ones. But this one, I wouldn't really qualify these as fill-ins. They're more like he just took an interest in doing this stuff. Now, the only exception in this episode is that all three of these books I'm going to show you were penciled or laid out by Starlin, and some were written by Starlin, and all three of these books I'm going to show you, he's inked by three different Filipino artists who just do a magnificent job, and it's eye-popping, and it's so different. It's just, Starlin always played well with others, and he always, I don't know how you put it, very confident in his own career, which it's kind of hard with a lot of freelancers. I mean, even some of the best ones have huge insecurities, and I'm not saying he doesn't, but who knows. We're not here to talk about that. We're going to talk about this is the very first Thor out and out superhero to get in a comic, established Marvel character, in issue 10. And I bought this, of course, because it was Thor, and the cover was so badass. Back then, I keep saying, this is the 70s. Painted covers were rare. Coloring was flat coloring, which in some cases was good, but I have to reiterate that every episode for the youngins. So, because we didn't have computer coloring, and that's good or bad. Now that is a pure Starlin frontispiece, as they call it, and I love it. It's like high. I don't know. I'll explain it. It's like it's high graphic. Black and white, but then has all this other little touches in there. Lovely, lovely, lovely stuff. So, what's great about these old magazines is that they have a lot of extra stuff, articles and such. And here we go. Story by Len Wein, art by Jim Starlin and Tony Dezuniga. Now, Starlin just chose to just let the story be written, and then he would work his magic on the story. And what's interesting is Tony Dezuniga, for about almost a year, he inked the black and white, the color comic Thor. And this just looks, I'm a sucker for black and white magazines. That's the inker in me. And a little bit of dry brush there. And there's so much to love here. It's a journey of a case in a sense, but rather against the power of Loki thou dost mean, dear brother, for in the end 'tis the god of mischief who shall possess the enchanted blood crystal. That pain in the ass Loki. What are you gonna do? Thor's like, remember Goofus and Gallant from Highlight magazines, and Thor was Gallant and Goofus was Loki, and that's very, very a little more adult. Not a lot, but it just you just didn't see a lot of that kind of stuff in the comics. It was more like Crash Boom Bang Marvel action, but although Len Wein and others did a really good job of incorporating the magnitude of Asgard, and Wein, and that's great. Now that looks like a Starlin pose. That's what's interesting. It's like some of them you can tell and some you can't. Like, that's exactly Starlin there. And that's because Tony Dezuniga's inks are really, I don't want to say overpowering. They're just, it's just a great marriage where you don't know where one ends and one begins. Check that out. That is just, those gray washes and black and white and hairbrushes. I love this angle from inside the maw of the dragon. And you know what? Tony Dezuniga's work looks a lot better in the black and white magazines because in the color comics, the printing with the color over top, it kind of washes it out a little bit. It just doesn't seem apropos, as people say. Apropos, oh, there he goes. Loki, being a dick. But great story. And there's the end. I recommend this also. This is a beat-up copy. There's a backup with Hercules, written by Bill Mantlo and art by Val Mayerick, and it is a stunner. There's the Star-Lord ad. So I'm going to get past that. I just wanted to share that with you. Okay, next is Rudy Nebres, who he also did a lot of stuff. I'm trying to think what exactly. He did a lot of Jonah Hex in the 70s. I plan to do a episode on Jonah Hex because later in my collecting and reading, I really got to enjoy Jonah Hex. Back when I was a kid, if it wasn't a superhero, I wasn't buying it. So that's, that was just me being narrow-minded. Well, I love these epic collections. I mean, if they close, I love Marvel Masterworks, but I'd love to see a lot more of these cover stuff that hasn't already been printed in Marvel Masterwork form because it's it costs less. Editor Marv Wolfman is the writer, Jim Starlin and Rudy Nebres, and he's just, again, all the Filipino artists are just astonishing, and Starlin's providing some really, really provocative layouts, just real standout stuff. And again, you don't necessarily know where one rendering line meets who does what, but it's a nice fit and it's different. It's like, I'm sure Starlin at this point probably had some say in doing finding out who was inking him and such, because he just was a fan favorite. Oh, that's Jim Starlin and Al Milgrom. This was written by then Jim co-wrote this one. So a lot of cool stuff. I'm going to try and keep this video a little shorter because I tend to It's not a Drew Tracy episode if I don't bonk the camera. Now, here is the prime cut. Now, when this came out, again, narrow-minded me did not appreciate this issue because it didn't look superhero-y. Trial by sorcery. All the things. I hate sorcery, but Doctor Strange I hated as a kid, and now I love Doctor Strange, even before the movies and everything. There's a nice splash there. I don't know who did that. I think it was Ed Hannigan. But I love all these random pieces they would add. So prepare yourself for something very, very different and gorgeous. This is Jim Starlin. Let me get this closer. Jim Starlin, plot and penciling, John Warner script, and Alex Nino, one of the most esoteric, stylish artists from the Filipino invasion, they call it. That's because a lot of people got hired from DC and Marvel from the Philippines, and that's just stunning. And as a kid, I hated it. I was like, sorcery, what is this art? It's ugly, duh. So, more evidence that I was a moron at the time. And it had to be like all that Marvel sheen, all that crisp, clean lines, and I didn't like interpretations that were off model. So, and the Hulk, he looked like I've never seen him before. Just real creepy and brutish. But reading it now, it's a delight. Look how nuts that is. That's glorious. It's really all I could say about it is glorious. I love that. I love that effect. I can't think of a lot of people that could pull that off and make it work. I mean, you could imitate it, but it's not going to mean it's great. We got multi fighting panels and a page, a STARLIN, what do you call those? A trope of his, but a good trope. I don't know if trope is supposed to mean bad or good, but it's there we go. How about that? Drink it in. Look at that, man. He looks like a demon. He doesn't look like the Hulk, but I love it. It's so frightening. He's just bug-eyed and like really angry. Or that effect. Okay. Hulk will smash. And it ends with his hand holding the H. So I recommend these. These are super cheap. I mean, you can get the Doctor Strange at your local comic shop or on Amazon or anything. But these black and white mags, this and the Thor book, are super cheap to find. I just get reading copies. With comics, I'm a little more precious, but I try to be careful not to make the spines come off because these magazines are a bit, a bit more fragile because they're larger, and they still have the same amount of staples. But check them out. It's all good. It's all